I got my hands on a bunch of 18650 lithium ion batteries for no spoilers reason. So I have like 20 kilowatt of them, but they were cheap for a reason. They were cheap because some of them don't even work. They have faulty BMSs, faulty cells, blah, 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 blah. I'm just trying to chug through them and test all of their capacities and see if they're usable. And I needed a quick and easy way of doing discharge and charge testing on them. And the way that I'm doing that is kind of unconventional. I went through a couple of different ideas. I started off with like this big coil of wire just dunked in a tub of water. That didn't work because the copper was electrolyzing. Surprise, surprise. And I tried to build my own constant current load with a big heat sink and some MOSFETs. That also didn't work. Somehow I blew up the MOSFETs and I couldn't be bothered. And it came to me that my good friend James, he gave me the suggestion. I could actually just drive a big solar panel using this buck converter here. I'm turning around 48 volts down into anything less than 48 volts. And luckily I had a solar panel. I've got a heap of these actually. I've got one of these here that is rated for operation at around 36 volts open circuit. So that means as long as I push roughly 36 volts through it, then current will start flowing even though there's no light driving it. So I'm essentially working this in reverse in terms of the power flow. So what's happening here is I'm pushing 48 volts through into, actually, no, better way to explain. I was discussing this with James and this diagram was helpful. Diagram of solar panel on solar panel. Yeah, basically I have this current supply here hooked up to push current into the negative terminal. So this is the same way that current would be flowing if you had this solar panel sitting in the sun and you were pushing the power through into a load. The current comes out of the positive terminal and it goes into the negative. But in this case, there's no light. Well, there's a bit, but there's not enough light to generate power. Instead, we're pushing current through it, so we're putting energy into this thing. And what that's going to actually do is essentially operate these similar to LEDs. And so, quite unconventional, hey. And this is a great load. This is doing like 300 watts of essentially dissipation. So I can test one of these batteries every couple of hours, and I've got 20 of them to get through. So I can probably get through all of them in a week or less. And hopefully they work. But yeah, here's some even more interesting stuff. Okay, I want to just first quickly show you the way that I'm doing the testing. So here I've got a little BMS. Oh crap, I've turned off the camera, you can't see. But basically attached to the battery, I have a little battery management circuit that essentially I'm just unplugging each time and plugging into, so I'm just using this one battery management circuit and I'm hop swapping it around to the different packs. So if I'm testing this pack that I have right now, then I'll attach the battery management to it. And the reason that I want to do this is that it's going to help me log the total current capacity of this thing. So you'll see here, this is all of the live data, the current, the power, whatever. What am I saying? It's like 12 o'clock. Brain's not working. But yeah, here are all the cell voltages, and from here I can basically see everything. Basically, I just need to know how much capacity is left in each of these cells, and whether or not this pack as a whole is still useful, or I need to do something like replace some of the cells. Then it gets annoying. Ideally, they all have the same amount of capacity. So, yeah, first I need to charge this whole entire pack up, make sure all the cells are balanced, and then I go for the discharge test, bring them from each of the cells at 4.2 volts, bring them all the way down to 3 volts, and see how much current, how many amp hours I can pull out of the battery, and also if they're out of balance by the end of the discharge. That's going to be the process. Basically, from here, I just need to put on this load. So it's been drawing about 7 amps for a while. Around about 7 amps, and you can see how this green curve here, which is the capacity, it's been dropping steadily. This big jump here, this is when like I went home, went inside for a little bit, and came back, and then the graph just has a bit of a discontinuity because, yeah, the plotting isn't that great on this. But yeah, by the end of this, so the capacity starts off at 25 amp hours. That's just like a nominal 25 amp hours that I've set, and these packs are meant to be 25 amp hours, but obviously that's just a nominal value, and these things they age, they get tired, and they don't want to work anymore. That's probably why some of these were thrown out anyways. So they might not have 25 amp hours. Once I get to the end of this discharge test, so when all of these cells start to shut off, get near the shut off voltage, the BMS will cut off the discharge, and I'll be able to see how many amp hours were discharged overall. So it'll just be 25 minus whatever the final measured amp hour is. And that'll be really nice. Anyways, that was a lot of yap. This is all cool. This is a little nice setup that's going here. But the interesting thing is, I just got curious because I was thinking, okay, so I'm basically using this solar panel as a big fat wait, sorry, I can't think and do it at the same time and talk at the same time. I was thinking, wow, this must be working as a big fat like LED, but in the infrared spectrum. And I should be getting like maybe a handful of tens of watts of infrared light coming out of it. Isn't that would be a lot of power, right? Maybe I can even feel the warmth if I stand in front of it like a space heater. So lo and behold, I have an IR camera. I invested in this a little while ago. It wasn't too expensive, and it was like $100. But yeah, this is awesome. Look at this thing. It's glowing. It's glowing red hot. But this is just from the thermal heating, right? So look, that's my hand, 37 degrees. The panel is at 30-ish degrees. That makes sense. That's from it heating. But it's not glowing. It's literally just a big glorified space heater, really. So yeah, this is a great use of this advanced technology. It's very convenient that I can do this much load through essentially what I had lying around for free. But by the way, that hotspot there is just because there's a yoga mat back there, so it's not cooling, which is why it's important that you have an air gap for your solar panels, because you can help it cool down quite a bit. Anyways, it's a bit of a tangent. Yeah, this thing doesn't actually seem to be emitting any infrared at all. Why is that? How mysterious. I had a little bit of a conversation with James, and we were both stumped and we had no idea. I did a bunch of messing around here with the wires and everything, and like I thought initially that I had hooked this up wrong, and I was driving all of each of these cells into reverse breakdown, which would have been really bad. But yeah, no, that wasn't what happened. So this is all hooked up correctly, and all of these cells should be operating in forwards mode, but they don't emit any infrared. Why is that? The reason is actually that it turns out silicon isn't quite like an LED. So they're called what's an indirect band gap semiconductor, and that means that essentially they aren't very efficient at emitting photons, like you would expect an LED to be fairly efficient. These aren't at all. So most of the energy that I'm dumping in, so most of the 300 watts, are just getting burnt up as heat, and that's why this is still emitting a bit of infrared as black body radiation, but yeah, not quite a big red glowing blow. What am I saying? Not quite a big red torch. But anyways, for my purposes, it's very great, and I just thought this was really interesting to look at. You can even see how on each of the wafers there's a bit of a hot spot, like near the bus bars, which is like along here and here. The silicon is also hot. So I'm not sure if that's because the current densities are just higher near the bus bars, or maybe the bus bars themselves are getting quite hot and that's conducting into the wafers. But yeah, this is really awesome, and actually really interesting as well, because I don't know, I've done a few projects using solar panels as solar panels, but I've never thought about what happens if you drive them and try to use them as big flashlights instead. So yeah, that's cool. And this is also cool. This is also cool. Like, this is actually cool. The batteries are staying very cold, which I'm happy about. Wait, this one's at 28 degrees. Like, that's not good. Okay, the rest of the cells are nice and cold, but this cell group is at 28 degrees. Interesting. Cell group 10. Okay, we'll chase up what's up with that. But yeah, anyways, thanks for listening to my rant. And hopefully some of you guys are interested about what I need all of these batteries for. Bye bye. Adios. Infrared face reveal.